Joining you from Trackside Villa Park, one of 11 trackside off-track betting locations in Illinois. For more information, visit tracksideotb.com, and I can tell you the service here has been phenomenal. And we're going to play some multi-race wagers during the course of the afternoon with Brian W. Spencer, known as The Natural, and King James Dixon. And you can't use every horse in every race. Well, unless you're King James, that is. James, let's talk about your multi-race wagering strategies. 50-cent pick fives have become huge in recent years. 50-cent pick fours, there's pick threes, there's daily doubles. How do you attack?
Multi-race wagers is what I was brought up on. It was.
It's what you were born to do.
It was what I was born to do, and it just. Some people like the single race; they want the quick pop. I want to sit and agonize for an hour, hour and a half. It lets me visualize. I handicap an entire day, and I'm trying to find winners. That's it. And I want to string a set of 3 to 4 winners in a row. So what I like to do is try and find the best way to make money, and that's a pick 3 and a pick 4. Visualize the race, find winners, make money, agonize for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I've noticed in some of your ticket constructions that you're using many horses in different races.
Right.
Obviously, you like to try to be favorites in those races within the sequence. That's key to cashing a big ticket. How do you pick what horses you're going to use, and how do you eliminate horses?
Well, I think it gets back to sort of visualizing a race and seeing who we think can come out on top. So I'm trying to visualize every possible outcome that I can. Now, there's obvious favorites, like you said, that you think can stand out, but goodness knows if you can get in the first leg of a pick 3 or pick 4, that price, the payout is astronomical. So I want to try and visualize some sort of sequence where I can see this 10 to 1, this 5 to 1, and eliminate anybody else within the race that can't hit. Do that in each leg. The best advice I can give in regards to the multi-race and especially taking care of the favorites, throw them out in the first leg. It's going to kill your ticket. I can't tell you how much money
or not play the wager.
Or don't play the wager.
If you really think that horse is going to win.
If you said don't play the wager.
Don't play the wager. I said that to the wrong guy.
That is something James does not know how to do.
But here, it all comes down to budget. You know, what kind of budget are you working for? Are you working with? Like, I like to play multi-race wagers. I'm more of a multi-race wager player than an intra-race wager player. I would rather sink $150 into a pick 5 than try to spend $150 over an entire car.
I am completely on your side with that. I also just wanted to say that the hour and a half of agony in a pick 4, also one of my favorite things in horse racing, right there with James on that. The thing about multi-race wagers that comes up so much when we start talking about it in even the most basic terms is the number one thing I can say is let the sequence dictate the ticket. You can't go into a pick 4 ticket and say, I've got $24. Because it's not necessarily going to work. There are sequences where that does work. What you need to do, what I do, is you go through the sequence and you figure out, in order to cover the horses that I think can win, or potentially at a price have a shot to win, what am I going to have to spend to do that? And then once I find that number, that's when I'm pulling the trigger or not, so to speak. If I find that there's 280 combinations worth of contenders in a pick 4, not my day. I'll pass it gladly.
You want to have wide open races in the sequence, but you don't want to have 4 or 5 completely wide. There's just too many horses that, well, no, I'm never going to say to you there's too many horses that you have to use.
No, it's true, though. You're absolutely right. You should not be just throwing 6 by 6 by 6. That's one of the things I do love about the multi-race wagers. I'm a big math guy. And not only are you handicapping, but you're figuring out what you're going to have to spend on the ticket, what would justify, what horses would have to come in to get to that price point. And it really is sort of a game within the game by figuring out the best ticket you can do. Now, I am as guilty more than anybody of making too large of a ticket.
But the thing is, too, something that comes up frequently when talking about this is there's a certain level of confidence you have to have going into that pick 4. You know, there are times where I'll say put together a ticket that's going to cost me $144, but at the same time, I don't want to sink $144 into a sequence I don't love. But, you know, as much as we want to laugh at James sometimes for his giant multi-race wagering tickets, no shame in hitting the all button in a wide open race. If you have strong opinions in 2 or 3 of the other races, hit that all button and hope for chaos.
If you have strong opinions, that's the best thing that can happen. If you think only 2 horses can win a race, singles are great. 2 balls are great too. But if there is a wide open race, and particularly when you look at a maiden race on grass for 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds, okay, these are some of the wide open races. Look for the speed of the speed. Never throw the speed of the speed out. Look for pedigree. even if it's a trainer that doesn't win a lot first time out of the box, but it's a first time starter with amazing pedigree. Exothermic is a horse that won on the Gulfstream turf this past meet. That's a horse you want to look at. He paid $50, had tremendous pedigree, but the trainer didn't win that often first time out. And then hot connections. Barns that are hot. Even if the horse doesn't look that great on paper, you want to use a hot connection.
I actually just today got beat by Joel Rosario and John Sadler in Southern California.
Well,
and I swear
those
that
connections
will
are always hot, aren't they?
Always. And the horse is 8-1. And I got beat. And in a wide open race, you do not want to it's a wrist-slitting affair if you get beat by connections that are winning at 30% together. When you have a wide open race, we talked about visualizing.
I'm talking about lower level connections, though. I'm talking about that 10% trainer that all of a sudden starts the meet winning 25% of the races. That's even more so under the radar.
I totally agree. You need to see the under the radar, but again, it's about, do you see that happening? Do you see, now if you have connections that are a jock that's 1 for 62 and a trainer that's 2 for 45, and they beat me, I let them beat me all day.
Sounds like the kind of horses I bet.
I let those connections beat me all day and play in the next ticket.
But I mean, what you're saying, Joe, makes me think of just this past Arlington meet. I think there was some day in the middle of the meet where we were sitting in the press box and all of a sudden both of us were just like, wait, Jan Ely's winning at 28%? It's just one of those. She was sending out live horses and the horses were running really well, and that was one of those times when a trainer who's maybe usually more of an 8 to 11% trainer was just sending out live horses, and you can't get beat by those horses because underrated barns, even having a hot streak, will often offer a price that they shouldn't.
Here's the thing, if you don't have a real opinion in the race, then look for some of the angles we're talking about. Hot connections, speed of the speed. A lot of times you'll see 5 horses in a race. You think there's going to be a duel, and the speed of the speed wins.
Yeah, I just
it happens.
Absolutely does. That's where things like, I don't even let the buzz beat me. If our own sheet, our own picks, if you have friends who have opinions on a race, and you think that they're strong at 6-1, 8-1, and they want to include it, maybe you don't see it, but you don't want to get beat by it.
Well, that's one of the things that you're really good at, and so is Michael Baychok, who won the NHC championship this year. He gathers as much information as possible, and then he's able to win handicapping tournaments that way, and he's able to hit multi-race wagers that way, because if he doesn't have an opinion, maybe he trusts somebody else's.
You can't disregard experts' opinions. If people are in the know and you respect their opinions, even if you don't see it yourself, you may not be on that day. You may be completely off. Take advantage of the fact that you can use another knowledge source to move forward.
If it's a handicapper you trust, that's a huge thing. I mean, even at Arlington, a circuit that I'm familiar with, a circuit that I cover, Joe will come up with a 15-1 morning line horse who I would rank 8th in a field of 10, but that's a horse that I'm going to use because that's a handicapper I trust who sees something that even though I don't see it, that could mean boxcars for me if that horse wins that race.
Speaking quickly to trusting the handicappers and not to go like this, but I tell my friends when we go to the track, let me play the multi-race tickets for you. I mean, let me put it together. I'm pretty good at visualizing it, and just put the money in and let's roll. So don't be afraid to lean on the people that are close to you that you know are good at that, and I'm happy to put together a ticket for you if you're ever around.
The moral of the story is figure out what your budget is, think about how much you like the sequence. Don't be afraid to have an opinion, don't be afraid to not have an opinion, but do your homework. It's the key to multi-race wagering.